Hello and welcome to Earth. I trust you have left your preconceived notions, prejudices, and disbelief when you set foot on this, the most controversial planet in the solar system. Good, because now you will have to be receptive to new concepts, alternate takes on history, and even have your perception of reality challenged at its very core. But don't be afraid. Think of it as an opportunity to free your mind from the communal thought that has influenced you ever since before you were aware of what was going on in the world. Today's date is July 18th, 2020, and here are some of the things you might have missed. News taken from the back pages and underneath the shadows of the headlines, hidden in plain sight since your last visit to Earth. There's something unusual lurking out in the depths of space. Yeah, there's a line we've all heard before, but astronomers have discovered 4 faint objects that at radio wavelengths are highly circular and brighter along their edges, and they're unlike any class of astronomical object ever seen before. They're so unusual that they have been given the name odd radio circles, ORCs for short. They look like distant ring-shaped islands, and we don't yet know exactly how far away these ORCs are, but they could be linked to distant galaxies. In a new paper detailing the discovery, the astronomers offer several possible explanations, but none quite fits the bill for all 4 new ORCs. After ruling out objects like supernovas, star-forming galaxies, planetary nebulas, and gravitational lensing, they speculate that the objects could be shock waves left over from some extragalactic event, or possibly activity from a radio galaxy. The objects were spotted during an ongoing pilot survey for a new project called the Evolutionary Map of the Universe, using the Square Kilometre Array Pathfinder radio telescope in Australia. Scientists working on the project have predicted that they will find thousands of new objects, but these 4 strange radio circles are certainly a great start. And last year, astronomers detected the most energetic gamma-ray burst we've ever seen. A distant galaxy spat out a colossal flare of nearly 1 trillion electron volts. That's pretty amazing on its own, but astrophysicists were able to use it to perform a new precise test on the theory of general relativity. According to Einstein's work, the speed of light is constant in a vacuum, no matter where you are in the universe. This fundamental principle is called the Lorentz invariance, but some theories suggest that it could break down what is called Lorentz invariance violation at very high energies, causing the speed of light to change due to the effects of quantum gravity. This particular burst, called GRB 190114c, emanated from a galaxy 4.5 billion light-years away, and scientists used that distance to check for violations in the Lorentz invariance. Using a theoretical model against the observed data, they found that the light curves in both matched up almost exactly, again proving that Einstein's theory of general relativity is correct. Which is a good thing, because if it wasn't, we'd have to come up with a whole new physical theory to explain a breakdown in the Lorentz invariance. And astronomers have discovered the closest black hole to Earth, so close that you can spot its cosmic home without a telescope. It's lurking in the constellation Telescopium in the southern hemisphere, about 1,000 light-years away, and has 2 companion stars that are visible to the naked eye, and that's how it was discovered. Astronomers were studying binary star systems, and when they calculated the orbital paths of these 2 stars, they found that they circulated a third object which they couldn't see. It turns out that it's a black hole, about 4 times the mass as our Sun, and shatters the mark for the closest black hole to Earth by 2,000 light-years. Astronomers say there could be more even closer out there, but for now, this one holds the record. We'll have more news later, but next, the radio show Earth is proud to have a very special guest on tonight. Roger Stone, political consultant, strategist, and self-described dirty trickster and close friend of Donald Trump, is on for the first hour to discuss his journey from top campaign advisor for Trump to convicted felon and freedom next with Truth, the Amendment Avenger, our show contributors, and you. This week on Earth.
Do you have a dark spot on your pants? provided by the hosts and guests on the radio show Earth do not express or imply the views of this station's management or that of the ownership of this station. In fact, it's just two guys lost in space.
Danger, Will Robinson, danger!
What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about, Will?
We want your soul. It really is a time when all of us have got to start talking louder than ever. The rapid speed of, if you like, globalization. The world government, world army, world central bank, world currency, world microchip population.
Don't be afraid.
No, be afraid. Be very afraid.
The important thing is to know where they want to take us.
They have to destroy the dollar, destroy the pound, destroy the old order while they've been building the new world order, this technological enslavement system.
The FBI is taking on a $1 billion project to gather fingerprints, palm patterns, even digital pictures of faces. Eventually, it could expand to include iris patterns, face shape patterns, scars, even information about how you walk and talk. It's called biometrics.
We want your soul.
You can't handle the truth.
Time to Howl at the Wolves. It's Saturday night, July 18, 2020 or 2020. What did they say at the Bilderberg Group?
As you like it.
Double A, how are you?
Great to be here. Freedom is always your first business.
Adam Earth.
I'm doing good. Ready for a good show.
Executive producer of The Sentinel.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm doing well and looking forward to another great show as well.
Dr. Drake, you join us again.
Good evening, my brothers. This is going to be another fire show, brothers.
Great to have you back in studio, Drake.
You got it, brothers.
Folks, this first hour we have an incredible guest. He's a patriot, probably the most famous person in the world right now. But he is a patriot, been in many presidential administrations, best-selling author many times over. Some of his books, The Clintons' War on Women, and The Man Who Killed Kennedy, The Case Against LBJ. A lot to talk with our guest tonight in this first hour. Roger Stone, welcome back to Earth, my friend.
I am delighted to be with you yet again.
Roger, I have to tell you this before we start asking questions. I congratulated you privately, but on air I want to congratulate you. Thank you so much for your courage. You are a patriot, my brother, and you've been through a lot. I hope your wife is doing well, and it's great to have you back on. And tonight, in this first hour that we have you on, I want you to, have the floor and say anything that you want to while we try and sprinkle some questions in for you.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity because, as I think you know, during this horrific 2-year ordeal, which I was politically targeted for one reason and one reason only, I supported and still support Donald Trump for President of the United States. I was unconstitutionally gagged by a deep state judge so that I couldn't defend myself. She argued that if I were allowed to speak publicly in my own defense or post anything on social media, that I might taint the D.C. jury. Never mind the fact that CNN and MSNBC and the Washington Post, which is the dominant newspaper within the city where the jury pool was located, were attacking me every day. Oh, no, that's perfectly all right. But if 200 people read your post on Instagram, that could shift the whole balance. It was an absurdity. The problem was that I was blowing the whistle on the entire Mueller investigation. I wanted to challenge the underlying premise of my indictment, which in the first 4 pages, you can read it. The Russians hacked the DNC and gave the information to WikiLeaks. The problem is, for them, is the government has no evidence of that whatsoever. They just keep repeating it like it's a fact. And if you don't believe it, then you're some kind of conspiracy theorist. But the truth is, all of the forensic evidence, all of the experts understand that there's far more evidence that the information that was taken from the Democratic National Committee was downloaded to some type of portable drive and taken out the back door. The speed times of the downloads, a number of other factors. I wanted to put that defense forward at my trial. that right was denied. I wanted to point out that Comey, Clapper, Brennan, McCabe, Strzok, Page, Orr, Hillary herself, Mueller himself, Rosenstein, the list goes on and on. They all lied to Congress. The difference between them and me is they lied about consequential matters. They lied about things that were actually material. They lied to cover up their own criminal activity, whereas any misstatement that I made, and I definitely made some, they were completely irrelevant. I wasn't hiding any underlying crime. Therefore, I had no motive to lie. I had no intent to lie, which is required under the law. The state of mind of the person who's accused is key in determining whether or not the law had been broken, but that really didn't seem to matter. Judge Jackson would not let me bring up the question of selective prosecution. And then lastly, this is the most unbelievable, the government moved and the judge approved a motion that prohibited me from bringing up any misconduct by Mueller's office, by the Department of Justice, by the FBI, or by any member of Congress. That's, first of all, completely unconstitutional. The Constitution is very clear, and all the decisions are clear, that a criminal defendant is entitled to whatever reasonable defense they may wish to mount. And as the Supreme Court said in the case of Kiles v. Whitley, the investigation, indictment, or prosecution of a defendant is always a reasonable defense, quote unquote. But I was not allowed to do that. Now, if that had been in place in General Flynn's case, we still would not know today about the epic levels of corruption in that case, where we now know that he was politically targeted and that they knew he didn't break any laws when they indicted him. We still wouldn't know that if such a bar was allowed in his trial, as was allowed in mine. And then, of course, I think most people know that my jury was also known as the Clinton-Obama administration alumni reunion. There were no Republicans, no independents, no blue-collar workers, no military veterans, but there were at least 4 appointees, political appointees, who had served in the Obama or the Clinton administration. There were 3 employees for left-wing think tanks or political action committees. There were 2 political activists who worked for Beto O'Rourke and Hillary Clinton. There were multiple people with direct relationships to the FBI or the Department of Justice. And there was even a woman who went to law school with one of the prosecutors in my case, who she described as a good friend in college. But when we said opposition to President Trump should be a disqualifying factor for a jury, the judge said, no, your opinion of Donald Trump is immaterial, which is why I got a jury comprised 100% of Trump haters, 100%. Now, mathematically, it's impossible to pull a jury pool of 120 people and get what we got, which was 1 Republican, 1. And guess who was struck by the government in their very first motion? Well, it was the 1 Republican woman. She was struck. How incredibly coincidental. This thing was not a trial. It was a lynching. And I thank God and the president for having the courage to recognize it. It is, therefore, when you go on social media and people say Roger Stone was convicted of a jury of his peers, it's outrageous that his sentence be commuted. No, I did not get a fair trial. And the jury forewoman's antics really take the cake. You see, she was a Democrat activist who ran for Congress in Tennessee. She's also an attorney. In 2019, she was attacking me by name and the president on both Twitter and Facebook. But during the jury selection and during the trial, she had her social media platforms on a private setting so nobody could see them. Then after the trial, she deleted them entirely. She attacked me on the day I was arrested, and subsequently, she attacked the president throughout the year. And in one instance, which came up at the hearing, she linked to a story about my indictment, about my case. Yet she said in jury selection she couldn't recollect who I was or what I had been charged with. When confronted with the story she had linked to about my case, before she could answer, the judge stopped her and said, "I'm directing you not to answer that question. Just because Miss Hart linked to the story doesn't mean she read it."
Wow.
You know, one of
At
the
another point, she put up a post saying Donald Trump is a racist and all of his supporters are racists. And my attorney asked her, "Well, if that's true, then you believe that my client, Mr. Stone, is a racist. Is that correct?" The judge said, "Stop right there. I'm ordering you not to answer that question. There's no reason to believe that Miss Hart knew that Mr. Stone was an associate of Donald Trump prior to her being selected for this jury. And if that's true, then she had to be living under a rock for the last 3 years."
Right.
Well, you know,
I mean, this was the most corrupted thing you'd ever seen. It was like a Soviet-style show trial. It was not a trial; it was a lynching. My friend Tucker Carlson had it exactly right. Roger Stone's trial was over before it started.
Well,
and we had a predetermined result.
Yeah, well, it definitely sounded like a kangaroo court. I remember before you went to testify to Congress, you let the world know what was in your opening speech, and I went through that, and it definitely seemed flawless. And you're correct about the Constitution because you know the Sixth Amendment says not only do you have the right to a speedy and public trial and to an impartial jury, it says, but it also says you know the right to seek the advice of counsel for your defense. But it also says not just to be informed of the nature and cause of the offense, but then it also says here's the last right is to be able to confront your accusers face to face. And here's a judge, an activist judge that won't allow you to do that. So I can definitely see the injustice. And by the way, if they had no evidence of any type of collusion on day 675, that means they had no evidence on day 2. So I do notice that you mentioned that with the help of God and President Donald Trump. And so before we dig deeper into this, I would definitely like to know about how God got you through this, and then I'd like to make an offer to you, and then we can move on. But how did the Lord help you through this?
Well, I was born as a Roman Catholic. I had my sacraments in that church. I had a Catholic education, but I have to admit that I had fallen away, and I can't even begin to explain to you how difficult, draining, exhausting, expensive, dispiriting this entire experience is. I mean, I now see why 99% of those who choose to plead not guilty are convicted. They have an unlimited budget. They hold all the cards. They lie. They cheat. They defraud the court. They get away with any kind of misconduct they wish. Yet they, in the end, they wanted to send me away for 9 years in a sentencing memo that essentially sought to hold me responsible for a number of crimes that I had not been convicted of committing. I'll give you an example. Mr. Stone published a book called The Myth of Russian Collusion, and it violated the judge's gag order. He should get 6 more months in prison. Well, the problem with that was the gag order was put in place February 18th. My book came out February 12th. It's that simple. No violation, except for in the mind of a crazed prosecutor looking for anything they can find. Or the most famous one of all. I posted an image of Judge Jackson, and in the upper left-hand corner, in tiny, is the watermarked, trademark logo of the organization that created the image. It's called Corruption Central. If you look at the images they've created of Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or Zuckerberg, Mark Zuckerberg, the same logos in the upper left-hand corner. I have an affidavit from the graphic artist who designed it. He says he based it on a Celtic cross. But by the end of the day, it became Roger Stone posted an image with a rifle crosshair over the judge's face, none of which was true. But in sentencing, they wanted to give me an extra 9 months because I, quote unquote, threatened a federal judge. I was angry, frustrated, I was worried about who would support my wife if I were unfairly incarcerated. My wife has been my rock through this, but she is 73 years old. She's deaf. She has rheumatoid arthritis. She's not terribly stable on her feet. They wiped us out financially. I mean, in the first 3 months, I lost everything: my home, my car, which is 16 years old, by the way.
Wow.
My savings, most of my insurance, my voice. There's the most important thing. And therefore, my ability to make a living. The judge's gag order essentially prohibited me from working because I'd make a living writing and speaking. So in the flash of an eye, I think every American understands you can lose it all overnight. You don't even think it's possible in this country, but I'm here to tell you that it is. Anyway, a very young, dynamic evangelist, 26 years old, Randy Coggins from northern Florida, told me that Franklin Graham was going to be in Boca Raton, not far from where I live in Fort Lauderdale, and asked me if I'd like to meet him. And I said I would love to, largely because when I was 12 years old, I saw Billy Graham preach at a tent revival in Bridgeport, Connecticut. He brought this crusade to Bridgeport, Connecticut. And it's one of my earliest memories as a child. I remember it very distinctly. It left a huge impression on me because he was so charismatic, so dynamic, so magnetic. It was really an extraordinary experience. And later on in the 70s, when I was working for President Nixon, Billy Graham visited the president in Key Biscayne, and I had an opportunity to shake his hand and have my picture taken with him. He was somebody, in my opinion, he's one of the greatest men of the 20th century. So I jumped at the chance to see his son, and I went to meet with him in Boca Raton, where he was having a revival. And he afforded me about 15 minutes on his tour bus, which is very nice. And he asked me, you know, how I was doing, and I told him very frankly that my life was in turmoil, that I felt I was heading into a mock trial where they prohibited me from mounting any reasonable defense. They destroyed me financially. I wasn't going to get a fair trial, and that the media was using the gag order to just destroy what reputation I had left, constantly calling me a Russian spy, constantly calling me a traitor, predicting that I would be indicted for treason, espionage, conspiracy against the United States, mail fraud, wire fraud, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, I know you know the president, as I do, but I'm not allowed to speak to him. I wonder if you might put in a good word for me. And he said, well, I'll see what I can do on that, but I think there's a much larger solution to your problem. You need to rededicate your life to Jesus Christ. You need to reaffirm your allegiance to Jesus. You need to be reborn, confess your sins, commit to walk in his way as best you can. And I absolutely guarantee you that if you will do that and you do it sincerely, you have nothing to worry about. God will protect you. God will deliver you from those who persecute you. God will never abandon you.
We love it.
And I thought about it. And then I went to his revival. He's a very dynamic speaker. He's not his father. He's a different style, but it's a very effective style. And he came to the part in his remarks where he said, you know, anybody here, no matter what you suffer from, whether it's drug addiction or alcoholism or relationship problems or health issues or financial issues, it doesn't matter what it is. God can help you. God will help you. But you have to pledge to follow his rules, to walk in his way. And the time came when I stood up with 500 other sinners. We confessed our sins in a field out in Boca Raton. And I have to tell you, it's like a cement block was lifted from my chest. I just had this exhilarated feeling of confidence, of strength, of peace. I knew then in January that it would all be all right in the end, that justice would be done. And that's why on Friday, I have to tell you, they keep asking, were you worried? Were you scared? No, I really wasn't. Every time the deep state mechanism would do something to me, I still understood that in the end, God wins. God always wins.
I love it. Roger Stone, this is Dr. Drake. We had a chance to interview you before President Trump won and after Trump won. It was amazing. The Patriots knew from the beginning how they sent more agents after you than Al Capone and Al Chapa on some trumped up charges. In fact, your shirt, Roger Stone, Still Did Nothing Wrong, was so popular. How did you keep your head up knowing that the mainstream media has you as their bullseye target? I mean, everything was a lie, but the Patriots had your back. How did that make you feel?
Well, let me outline, because it kind of got lost in the shuffle here. Let me outline what happened in the final days. It is currently the policy of the Department of Justice and the Bureau of Prisons, because of COVID-19, that anybody convicted of a nonviolent offense be moved from incarceration to home confinement. That is their official policy. And indeed, Michael Avenatti, the Democratic super lawyer, Michael Cohen, until he violated those rules, Rick Gates, Paul Manafort's bag man. By the way, he's a very strong guy because those bags were very heavy.
That's right.
Those guys have all been moved to home confinement, yet we were shocked to learn that it was the position of Mr. Barr's Department of Justice that those rules do not apply to Roger Stone. That's what they told us essentially 3 weeks ago. We filed an emergency motion with the judge in my case because the precedent in every circuit in the United States, including D.C., in the last 30 days, is that any prisoner or person about to go to prison who has appealed to the courts for compassionate release or compassionate transfer, it's been granted. That is the legal standard. The official policy of the Department of Justice and the Bureau of Prisons, as I just said, is also for such a transfer to home confinement. The prison that they wanted to send me to in Jessup, Georgia, the judge kept insisting there were no cases of COVID there. At the same time, the Bureau of Prisons website was showing at that point 60. Today they show 116, I think. And then lastly, I'm 65 years old. I've had asthma my entire life. I almost died of it as an infant. So you had four major factors that would have suggested that the judge would grant our motion: legal precedent, current rules and regulations, the current situation, which is clearly dangerous in the prison that they wanted to send me to, and my own specific health problems, which we submitted under seal. The judge ruled against us, which was not surprising to me. It was rather surprising to my lawyers. See, the problem with lawyers is they believe in a broken system. By definition, if you're a lawyer, you have to think this is all on the up and up, which I can tell you firsthand, it is not. But what's even more shocking is I appealed that ruling to the Circuit Court of Appeals, and 20 minutes before the president signed my commutation, the Circuit Court ruled against me 3-0.
Wow.
Roger, as you know, you've done a lot of radio, my friend. We're coming up to this first break. Roger Stone is our guest for this first hour. Incredible information, and I'm so happy for Roger. I am so happy. The country should be happy for Roger Stone. We'll continue speaking with Roger when we come back. EarthRadioNetwork.com is the show's website. AA, what are people listening to?
This is Earth.
Don't believe everything that you hear. Look it up for yourself. Knowledge is power, and knowing leads to the truth. More from Earth in just a moment.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Time to howl at the wolves, Earth fans. Truth here with my executive producer, The Sentinel, for Earth Plus. Sentinel, let's talk about what Earth Plus members get.
First of all, Earth Plus members can see the show from multiple cameras live or anytime they want. Every show is immediately uploaded and archived. You also get my exclusive Sentinel News.
And weekly videos, man on the street, sit-down interviews that AA and yours truly go out and film. And the Black Sheep Vault, one monthly show handpicked by me from years ago for $1.50 a week. That's $6 a month. You get a whole lot of content. Go to www.earthradionetwork.com. Become an Earth Plus member today.
Hello, this is Ty Bollinger, author of the best-selling book, Cancer, Step Outside the Box. I want you to know some very important information. In 1985, President Ronald Reagan requested that Carnivora be sent directly to the White House at a time when only the president could obtain this world-class healer. Now, 27 years later, carnivore capsules are used around the world to keep people healthy. Now you can protect yourself and your loved ones in this age of superbugs with 17 naturally occurring compounds that instinctively respond to abnormal cells only without harming a single normal cell. If you want to stay healthy, now's your chance to literally wake up your critical immune cells to attack harmful invaders that don't belong in your body. Call 1-866-VENUS-FLY or order from carnivora.com. That's carnivora.com. That's 1-866-836-8735, 1-866-VENUS-FLY, or visit carnivora.com. Protect your immune system. It's the only one you've got.
Chuck Bergman, psychic medium, will amaze you.
My dad passed away 3 years ago in September.
So it's funny how sometimes they never know what they're going to talk about. Did you ever have to have a car crushed? Does that make sense?
That was his job. He would crush the cars.
Say what now?
He would crush cars.
So, Matt, he really crushed cars for a living?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
If you have ever wanted to communicate with a loved one who has passed on, call on North Florida's best medium, Chuck Bergman.
Did he leave behind a sister?
It's his older sister that pretty much raised him like his
Sure,
son.
that would work. Okay, because he visits with her a lot. I don't know if she's aware of that or not. And now we got to give a quick message to Mom. Who's got the February birthday?
My mom.
Okay, that's a happy birthday to her. Also, a happy Valentine's Day coming up. He still loves her. Boy, he was like circling February over and over and over.
Book your private reading by visiting chuckbergman.com or call 904-291-1196.
The show that has been accused of telling the truth and has been found guilty. Now back to Earth with your host, Dr. Truth.
Roger Stone is our guest for this first hour. Roger, my co-host Double A has a question for you real quick, but after that, in studio is one of your biggest fans. He has his Roger Stone Did Nothing Wrong shirt on, Royale, so I want him to be able to ask you a question in just a moment. Go ahead, Double A.
All right.
Excellent. You know, it's interesting because before I get to your question, I've decided that my very first public appearance anywhere after this great act of mercy and justice by the president will be a trip to Jacksonville.
Wow.
And the details of that, the date and the details will be announced shortly. I'm going to come up there to campaign for Judson Sapp, who's running for Congress, a very close friend of mine. In my opinion, one of the most dynamic young conservatives. I mean, Matt Gaetz needs help, and this guy needs to join that brigade. So I'm going to be up there for Judson Sapp.
Roger, we should have you in studio if we can.
I would love to do that.
Wow.
You guys know how to find me.
That'll be outstanding. You know, I was just about to offer you, see, because just like you, I was born and raised in a Catholic family, and then I fell away. But then when I read the Bible, it actually commands for adults to be baptized in the name of Jesus Christ for the remission of their sins. And I'm actually an ordained minister in an international ministry, and I would be honored if, and you can, we can talk offline if this is something you think you want to do, to drive down to where you're at and meet you, and then do that for you. Or we could do it up here in Jacksonville. So I just wanted to throw that out there before we moved on into other things, to put that on the table for you.
That is very kind. Let me think about that. I must tell you, I remain a Roman Catholic because it's the family of my parents and my grandparents and my great-grandparents. I don't subscribe to every single piece of dogma. The one thing we all Christians have in common is we believe in the birth, the death, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ as the only begotten Son of God. And that's what unites us. It doesn't really matter to me whether you're a Baptist or a Methodist or a Presbyterian or an Episcopalian. Well, they're barely Christian. But anyway, just kidding.
Well, and the Bible...
That is the key thing, as you know.
Yeah, he has made one blood of all nations, so I would definitely be glad to know you as brother in Christ. So that's awesome. So I just want to throw that out there for you, and definitely looking forward to seeing you, and want to hand you over to Royale.
Roger, real quick, man. I will get in touch with you and Kristen, because when you come to Jacksonville, that would be too cool for school if we can get you in studio.
Definitely, I would look forward to that.
Now this gentleman drove here to studio because he's such a huge fan of yours. His name is Royale. Like I said, he has your shirt on. Royale, say hi to Roger Stone.
Hello. How's it going, sir?
Excellent. Where did you get that T-shirt, Royale?
I actually got it from you. I don't know. You sent me a message on Instagram and asked me for my address. Literally
there
told
you
me you
go.
were going to mail it to me.
Well, the good news is, Royale, is if things get tough for you, you can later sell that T-shirt and send your kids to college.
There you go.
Right on. Right on.
Because right now, I think the Smithsonian is trying to acquire one.
Oh yeah.
Just
Well,
kidding.
Well, you actually sent one to my girlfriend too, because the moment that I got it and she goes, "Wow, he actually sent you that," I said, "Yeah," and she said, "Well, tell him I'm such a huge fan," and I told you, and you said, "Well, what's her address? I'm gonna send it to her too," and I said, "Well, that's really cool," and she sports that thing everywhere. She's in Vegas right now, and they got a lot of haters over there. And I just want to know real quick, because you're in Florida and everything, and it's just like, what are the biggest concerns right now with you concerning Florida, and everything that's going on? They're doing the whole we're having everybody trying to get distracted by the mask, and nobody is understanding that our freedom is threatened right now with all the threats that are coming against us, with all the threats that are coming out against you, and just everybody's not really understanding that these are the actual problems that we are facing with the fake news attacking you the way they have, with the deep state attacking you. So it's just, this is just another distraction that I'm seeing. Everybody's focusing on the COVID. No one's focusing on what's going on with our leaders, and more specifically our patriots like yourself.
Well, you're absolutely right. It's kind of interesting. Since the moment I was commuted, Robert Mueller's right back with the same failed narrative yet again. He writes an op-ed piece for the Washington Post in which he says, "We investigated Roger Stone because he was communicating with Russian intelligence officers," notice that's a plural, "known to us." Well, first of all, he's referring to an exchange with a persona on Twitter called Lucifer 2.0. But what he doesn't tell you is that the exchange I had with him, or with this persona, took place in October, long after WikiLeaks had already published everything they had on Hillary Clinton or the Democrats, making collusion with him chronologically impossible. But more importantly, that I myself released the entire content of our exchanges in 2017, and they're entirely benign. There's no evidence of collusion or cooperation or the trade of information. They're completely innocuous. And then lastly, he doesn't tell you that I turned this material over to the House Intelligence Committee when I testified in 2018. So it's not a secret. It's all been written in the media. I think that characterization, just because John Brennan says Lucifer 2.0 is a Russian intelligence asset, that's not proof. In fact, if you talk to any of the NSA experts like Bill Binney or Ray McGovern or any of them, they will point out to you that there's far more evidence that Lucifer 2.0 is actually an American intelligence operative, and that the Russian thumbprints all over his clumsy behavior is proof of it. If he were really working for Russian intelligence, would he leave 100 clues that he's a Russian? Of course not. And if you go to the WikiLeaks disclosures from Vault 7, there's a whole memo about how to conduct a hack and make it look like it came from somebody else other than you. So, these people never quit. I mean, you have Andrew Weissman, the French poodle. They call him a pit bull. He's more of a French poodle of the Mueller investigation. This guy is the slimiest, most corrupt prosecutor in the United States. He writes an op-ed for the New York Times, which says, we need to drag Roger Stone in front of the grand jury to get the truth out of him. Andrew, my man, you had 3 years to drag me in front of the grand jury, and you never tried. And then you have the nerve to quote the Enron case in your piece. The judge in the Enron case accused you of misconduct. Why didn't you mention that part? I mean, these people are committed to a false narrative, and the problem is that the corporate-owned media will keep recycling their lies even after they are long debunked and disproved. We now know that and I would point this out to Nadler and Schiff and Schumer and Pelosi and all of these phonies jumping up and down screaming about the rule of law, that the abuse of power by Barack Obama and Joe Biden, in which they use the full authority of the United States government and the capability for surveillance of our intelligence agencies to spy on the Republican candidate for president, to defraud the FISA courts, and to mount a phony coup d'etat based on evidence they knew was fabricated, is the biggest abuse of power in American history. This makes Watergate look like small potatoes. They are the criminals. And if nobody is brought to justice by Mr. Durham, I have my doubts, in all honesty, well, then you're going to have a revolution in this country. I'm not for that. I'm for a democratic judicial system, but we cannot continue to have this two-tiered justice system. I'll give you two examples. The very week that I was convicted, the new prosecutor in my case, J.P. Cooney, announced that he had decided that Andrew McCabe would not be prosecuted for his lies to the FBI. Now, if you check, the crime that McCabe would have been charged with carries a longer mandatory penalty than the guidelines for my crime. Or, yet again, the Inspector General of the Department of Justice, in two separate reports, has recommended to the Attorney General that former FBI Director James Comey be prosecuted. In both cases, the crime is substantially more severe than the lying to Congress charge they cooked up for me. But the Justice Department and Mr. Barr has elected not to prosecute Mr. Comey. So you have to wonder whether we have one system of justice for that great American hero and patriot, General Michael Flynn and Roger Stone, and a different system of justice for Hillary Clinton and her little retinue, including Huma Abedin and Clapper, Comey, Brennan, Strzok, or this list goes on and on.
Right.
We're going to find out very shortly. You'll notice, folks, that Mr. Durham's investigation was going to be over in the spring, and then it was the summer. Now it's the fall. It's only a matter of time before they tell you the results will become known after the election. I just have no confidence whatsoever that anybody will be held responsible. The only people this Justice Department prosecutes are people who support the president.
Well, you know, what's interesting is you mentioned the Clintons and you mentioned Durham and you mentioned, people being brought to justice and slapped in cuffs. I was absolutely amazed because what I have on screen right now for the viewers who are viewing this is your book, The Clintons' War on Women. And I went and I reread again Chapter 7, which is called Orgy Island, and it fleshes out everything that the Q community and everything that's coming out now about, global pedophile networks and everything else, and about these criminals being brought to justice and the horrific things that happened in Florida to let him off. And again, you call out Maxwell, you call them all out. This is step by step what went down back in 2015 when most people hadn't heard about this. So again, I congratulate you on that on your book. I think particularly Chapter 7, dealing with all that, is definitely a service to humanity, and it just so happens to turn out that as these things are being revealed, everything in your book is 100% correct. So I just wanted to give you a shout out for that and some kudos for that, because absolutely incredible information. So obviously you've known about this stuff for a while, and I commend you for putting it out.
I mean, in all honesty, I think that book is what got me indicted. It is not incidental that the chief prosecutor for my case was a woman named Jeannie Reid. She has all the charm of a North Korean prison guard.
Wow.
She was Hillary Clinton's personal attorney and the lawyer for the Clinton Foundation in the missing illegal email server case. Interestingly enough, by the way, she lied to the judge in that case about how many emails there were and where they were. But so you would think she'd be an odd choice to prosecute me for lying to Congress. She's never been a prosecutor, by the way. She did give the maximum legal donation to both of Hillary's presidential campaigns, however. The other prosecutor, who the mainstream media will keep telling you over and over again is a non-political career line prosecutor, Aaron Zelinsky. This pompous, arrogant bully was Hillary Clinton's deputy legal counsel at the State Department longer than he's been a federal prosecutor. He's a fraud. He's a con man. He's a bully. And multiple federal formal complaints will be filed against him shortly. He defrauded the court in my case. He defrauded the court in the Papadopoulos case. He bullied a number of lawyers and a number of witnesses. Number of those lawyers are now fed up, and I think they will be seeking some redress. But this guy showed up at the House Judiciary Committee for their hearings about the sentencing of Roger Stone. And at the last minute, he announces because of the dangers of COVID and the fact that he and his family have a newborn, that he's not going to appear in person. Well, the newborn was born 2 years ago. To me, that's not newborn, number one.
Not at all.
Number two, his testimony was the greatest combination of perjury, hearsay, and BS I've ever heard from anybody in my life.
Right.
For example, we were told that there was White House pressure on the Attorney General and the acting U.S. Attorney for D.C. to go easy on Roger Stone. Well, Mr. Zelensky, told by who? Well, I'm really not permitted to say. That's called hearsay. It's BS. This guy had nothing. He's a con man. He comes from a long line of con men. And this idea that just because he went to Yale, he thinks that means you're smart. No, dude, you went to Yale. That means you're dumb. You're a legacy. You're a legacy. Don't you get it?
Roger.
In any event, yes, go ahead.
I have a quick question. When Seth Rich was murdered, the media, people like Sean Hannity, everybody was, were on fire about what's going to come out in a laptop. And then the FBI told the family there was nothing in the laptop. And the family said, people like Sean Hannity and you and everybody, there's nothing in the laptop. So we all backed off. Everybody backed off. But now, looking back, connecting the dots, James Comey was over the FBI. Is anybody connecting the dots there? I mean,
I don't. In all honesty, it all looks strange to me, but I make no claims. I did notice that Seth Rich's parents initially said that he was not the victim of a robbery, and then they changed their public story and said he was. In all honesty, I've been fighting so hard to save my own
I got you.
hide that I haven't had the chance to dissect that, so I make no particular claim. But I do think it is odd that the FBI, this is a matter of public record, has quote-unquote lost his computer. And I still think it is strange that we don't know what exactly it was that was on Anthony Weiner's computer, or I should say the computer he shared with Huma Abedin, the top aide to Hillary Clinton, that the New York Police Department bumped into when they were investigating him for inappropriate texting with minors. And they found a trove of some 600,000 emails, which his wife had forwarded to her husband, presumably for safekeeping. Some have said this was her insurance file, so she didn't end up like the rest of the Clintons' friends. Unfortunately for the FBI, somebody at NYPD, somebody I actually know, retained a copy of this file just in case the FBI decides, as they have, to bury it.
Wow.
So sooner or later, someday we're going to learn what is there. I'm told it is truly horrific, but I don't have firsthand knowledge.
Gotcha.
It was bad enough that James Comey reopened the investigation into the illegal server on Friday and closed it on Monday. Mr. Comey, who took 5 years to read 30,000 emails, would have us believe that the FBI read 600,000 emails in 2 days.
Exactly.
Not possible.
I love you, man. I love you.
This guy is, he is, and he's so righteous, like he's a hero. The only one who's worse is John Brennan. I mean, one of the things that almost got me tossed in jail was I published a wanted poster of John Brennan that said wanted for treason. The judge did not like that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Even though Brennan ostensibly has nothing to do with my case. It's extraordinary that these actors, Clapper lied to Congress specifically when he was asked whether the U.S. government conducts a metadata collection program on American citizens. He said, no, absolutely not. That was a lie. You know where he is now? Well, part-time he teaches ethics at Vermont College, and the rest of the time he's a consultant to CNN.
Wow.
It boggles the mind. It really does.
That's like when Hillary lectured us on cybersecurity during the presidential debates. I was like, what? Did that just happen? Comey teaching ethics. So absolutely incredible.
Roger, we're going to hit this last break with you, and on the other side of the break, we have a short segment with you, and I want you to fire out any information you want to. And I need to ask you a question on the other side of this coming here break. Real quick, actually, so I can write this down. When are you coming to Jacksonville?
The date is undetermined. It will
Okay,
be
that's
decided
right.
in the next couple of days.
That's right.
But it'll be my first public appearance. I've insisted. I got to get by Whitey's Fish House for some fried oysters anyway.
Oh,
so
man.
I'll be there.
I'll buy.
Deal.
That's a great place, man. Wow. Roger Stone is our guest. We have one more segment with Roger when we come back from break. Great questions, great information tonight with our good friend Roger Stone. Patriot, folks. A man of courage, believe me. He's been through a whole lot. Deep inside a Black Sheep studio somewhere in Jacksonville, Florida. It is a Saturday night, AA. It's a Saturday night. EarthRadioNetwork.com is the show's website. What are people listening to?
Making Pappy Boyington proud. This is Earth.
Hi folks, Ronnie McMullen here talking about the gain you receive from Get the Tea. A lot of food out there is not really food, but more like filler. Almost all fillers are GMO nightmares. When foreign fillers filled with toxins enter our body, well, we don't run so well. We are being bombarded with poor air quality, chemical water, and food fillers that abuse our bodies. And we wonder why they're building more hospitals. How about a clean checkup? Life Change Tea helps you fight toxins, fillers, bad air, and water. All you have to do is drink 2 8-ounce glasses of tea a day. Save money by getting healthy. Doctor visits are costly. Healthy exercise and Life Change Tea could be your answer. So order now at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Don't put it off. Call us 928-308-0408. Again, 928-308-0408. And by the way, if you're going to call us, we say good call.
AMCO Transmissions, the trusted experts in transmission repair for over 50 years, are also the right choice for all car repairs.
Yes, AMCO Transmissions, the name you know for fixing the most complicated part of your car, can take care of your brakes, tune-ups, belts and hoses, air conditioning, regular factory maintenance. They can fix anything.
Plus, at AMCO, if you think your car may need repairs, we'll perform a free multi-point inspection and let you make the decision. If another shop says you need a repair, stop. Then come to AMCO Transmissions and Total Car Care for a free second opinion.
Why pay someone when AMCO will check it for free?
Don't trust your car to just anyone. Get it done right at any of our local family-operated Jacksonville area locations, including Orange Park, St. Augustine, and St. Mary's, Georgia.
Additional diagnostic charges may apply. See Center for details.
Find the AMCO Center nearest you at AMCOJacksonville.com.
AA MCO.
If you need car or truck repairs but money's tight, get help at AMCO. No matter what your credit history, AMCO has finance plans to help almost everyone.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Free your mind with the truth. Now, back to Earth, the most controversial planet in the solar system.
Roger Stone has been our guest for this first hour. We have him for this short segment right here. Roger, Stone Defense Fund, you still have that going?
Yes, I have to pay for an appeal. See, the difference between a pardon and a commutation is in a pardon, you are acknowledging guilt, which I refuse to do. In a commutation, you have the right to appeal your conviction, which I now have to do. That appeal will expose the deep state, which is why they wanted to send me to a COVID-19 infested prison. You see, if I died there, my appeal would die with me. And therefore, the corruption of everybody involved in my case, the prosecutors, the jury forewoman, and so on, would die with me. That was the whole reason why I had to be shipped to prison immediately. The president, in an act of mercy, a humanitarian act, saved me from that fate, but now I have to follow through and appeal my conviction. That will take a year and probably another $1 million. So folks who want to help me can go to stonedefensefund.com, stonedefensefund.com. In the meantime, as I think I've expressed here, we are struggling to make ends meet. I now will be free to work again, which is great, but I've got to get back on my feet. We're struggling for the basic necessities of rent and utilities, medical expenses, groceries, gasoline. I mean, so we're not living lavishly, that I can tell you. But those who want to help the family can go to stonefamilyfund.com, stonefamilyfund.com. And obviously 65,000 patriotic Americans have helped us get through this ordeal. I was able to raise the $2 million I needed for my initial legal defense, even though the judge made a legal defense impossible. Picture a man going into a boxing match with his hands tied behind his back, and then the media stands on the sidelines and says, well, Stone never threw a punch. Mm-hmm. Exactly what it was like.
Wow. And we can still support you by going out and buying your fantastic books, right? Do you still get compensated for that?
Yes, absolutely. So to get my books, the best place to go is to the stonecoldtruth.com website, stonecoldtruth.com. Just go to the store there, or the shop, I guess it's called. And those books are autographed, and I do sign them myself. They're not signed by an intern in my office because I have no interns in my office.
Roger, it's been such a pleasure having you on, man. And like I said, I'll keep in touch with you and Kristen. And when you come to Jacksonville, we got to get together. And like I said, hopefully get you in studio. That'd be too cool.
Well, I would be privileged to do that. I look forward to it. I guess the bottom line of this is this, which I really have to hit on. Immediately after I was commuted, the new line of attack from the deep state and their corporate media fake news allies was Roger Stone was rewarded for his silence, that he knew of misconduct by the president, but he kept quiet about it. He covered up for the president, and in return, he got commutation. That is absolutely positively false. There is no evidence of that whatsoever. My critics say, see, the lack of evidence is in itself the evidence that it happened. No such thing happened. They did try to squeeze me to bear false witness against the president. They did try to pressure me to lie so that they could use my testimony in an article of impeachment against Donald Trump. And probably double-cross me in their vague promises of leniency. But I refuse to take the easy path. And I have no regrets about that. But right now, get ready for it. This is the new lie du jour. Oh, Stone was covering up for the president. Now, it is true that Michael Cohen and Rick Gates, in their plea bargain-induced testimony, both claim they overheard phone conversations between myself and candidate Trump, but no corroboration for these calls could be found. No phone records, no witnesses. So you have two convicted liars who are trying to get a reduction in their sentences, saying what Mueller told them to say. That's not proof. That's an uncorroborated allegation. I denied it under oath before the House Intelligence Committee. If they could prove it, why didn't they charge me with it? They didn't.
And you are an innocent man and a free man, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on. We're hitting this hard break, Roger. I'll be in touch. Take care. God bless.
Many thanks.
God bless and congratulations.
Thank you for taking the arrows for us. You are definitely a pioneer. We're right behind you. God bless.
The flagship station of the Jacksonville Jaguars, WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach.
You are listening to Earth. The guys are taking a break, getting ready for hour 2, and I'm sure that if you've been paying attention, you're processing what you have heard so far. Now, we don't want you to believe us just on what you have heard. Check it out for yourself and make your own decision on whether or not you are hearing the truth. What's really going on? Is this a total departure from what you know is real, or is it simply enhancing your worldview? That is a question only you can answer. We are simply opening the door to new ideas.
It was our pleasure to have Roger Stone on the program tonight. You've heard lots of mind-blowing conversation, and although he won't be with us for the second hour, there's more to come. But first, more news from the most controversial planet in the solar system. One could say that the ultimate stealth weapon for the past 100 years has been the submarine, and the latest cutting-edge classes of American subs like the Virginia and Seawolf class are said to run just 5 decibels over the background noise of the ocean when underwater. But some naval analysts say that their stealthy dominance could be coming to an end. China has been developing new methods of detection, including a satellite-based laser surveillance system that could detect vessels submerged as deep as 1,000 feet or more. Quantum entanglement may also play a role in their plans, as Chinese scientists are working on technology like quantum radar and an ultra-sensitive magnetic detector known as SQUID, short for Superconducting Quantum Interference Device. It's far more effective than the magnetic anomaly detectors of old, and field tests have already shown that it can locate metallic objects deep underground from a helicopter. Researchers estimate that a SQUID magnetic detector could find subs miles away and could even be used as an early warning system off the coast to look for approaching submarines. Technologies like these are some time off from being developed into practical operational systems. However, it's clear that developments in the field of quantum physics will play their part in changing the rules of undersea warfare in the 21st century, probably sooner rather than later. And as robots become increasingly sophisticated, they can do more in the field of scientific research, such as the case with one robot developed at the University of Liverpool in Great Britain. A team of scientists there created a robot chemist that's capable of working 1,000 times faster than its human counterparts. It's tasked with doing the menial and repetitive jobs in the lab and has already helped human scientists discover a new photocatalyst. What would usually take human researchers months to discover, the human robot discovered in just over a week. It managed to do so even as it went through 98 million different possible experiments. The new catalyst is 6 times more reactive than those previously discovered, and already plans are in the works to improve the robotic scientist, such as adding voice recognition tech as to facilitate communication with its human co-workers. And back in April, the U.S. government officially declassified 3 video clips of UFOs, that is, unidentified aerial phenomena encountered by U.S. Navy pilots during 2 separate encounters. In fact, the Pentagon's decision to not only release them, but to also confirm that the objects were genuinely unidentified raised some eyebrows and was seen as a significant step forward in the search for the truth about what these objects are and where they come from. Now, one man says that those videos are just the tip of the iceberg. Luis Elizondo, the former leader of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, who helped to facilitate the release of the videos, says that the Defense Department had no choice but to go public with the videos because the paper trail was too great to keep them under wraps, and he has indicated that the Pentagon is still in possession of a lot more evidence of unidentified aerial phenomena. Of course, unfortunately for ufologists and truth seekers, that information is still highly classified. Stay tuned. Open forum discussion for the rest of the program, and nobody knows where the conversation will go when Hour 2 of Earth starts. Next.
Woke up this morning with light in my eyes, and then realized it was still dark outside. It was a light coming down from the sky. I don't know who or why. Must be those strangers that come every night. Those saucer-shaped lights put people uptight. Leave blue-green footprints that glow in the dark. I hope they get home alright. Hey, Mr. Spaceman, won't you please take me along? I won't do anything wrong. Hey, Mr. Spaceman, won't you please take me along for a ride? Woke up this morning, I was feeling quite weird. Had flies in my beard, my toothpaste was smeared. Over my window they'd written my name, said so long, we'll see you again. Hey, Mr. Spaceman.
The opinions provided by the hosts and guests on the radio show Earth do not express or imply the views of this station's management or that of the ownership of this station. In fact, it's just two guys lost in space.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice. Tumbling down the rabbit hole? You have the look of a man who accepts what he sees because he is expecting to wake up. Ironically, this is not far from the truth. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind. Do you want to know what it is? It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave like everyone else. You were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind. Unfortunately, you have to see it for yourself. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more. Do you really? Follow me.
And the radio show Earth is that red pill, the red pill of truth.
You can't handle the truth.
I didn't think so.
But I need it.
Second hour of tonight's transmission, Saturday night, July 18, 2020, or 2020, as you like it. Want to thank Roger Stone so much for coming on. Can't wait to get him back on, because we'll talk about a lot more stuff.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
A lot more stuff coming up with the campaign. He'll have a lot of information to discuss with us. But, folks, a lot of places we can go in this second hour.
Yeah.
So, real quick, for our friends at Go Cleanse, Adam Earth, you finished your 11-day Go Cleanse.
I did.
And how much did you lose?
19 pounds.
In 11 days.
In 11 days.
Not too shabby.
But the most amazing part is I did nothing for those 11 days. I watched Netflix for those 11 days. Because outside of here, I do nothing. I stay home. And
Well,
I
you-
still lost 19 pounds.
You detoxified your body, and that's what happened. Sentinel.
Yes.
You're 1 day away from finishing your.
Yeah, I
11-day
got
Go
1 day left, and that's tomorrow. That's my last cleanse day. And I wasn't even going to weigh myself throughout this whole process, but Patty contacted me on Tuesday and said, go ahead and weigh yourself since you got done with your first cleanse there. And I said, okay. And I had originally weighed myself on like a little spring-loaded bathroom scale at home, and it said I weighed 245. Well, when I weighed myself again, it was one of these, the big scales that are in the front of Publix's, the when you walk in the door. So I got on that, and it said I was 225. And so I was thinking, well, okay, maybe there's a little bit of a discrepancy, and I checked on my scale, and yeah, there was a little bit, but it was only like a couple 3 pounds. So I would say I lost between 15 and 20 pounds just in the first 4 days, and I've been on it ever since, and I still feel good, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the last. I'm going to weigh in tomorrow, I guess, or Monday, and I'm looking forward to seeing what I actually end up as.
You're going to be very surprised. In 4 days, you basically 20 pounds or close to it.
Yeah.
You're going to be very surprised.
And I do have a job, outside of this and everything. So I'm doing a lot of physical activity. I'm going in and out of a truck and carrying things and all sorts of different stuff. So I actually had some physical activity to go along with it. And it actually did help. And like I said, I was thinking that I was going to feel just like terrible after a while. I wasn't drinking coffee, so I was going to miss the caffeine. I was going to, miss actually having food that I would like to eat and stuff like this. And, I have missed a lot of that, but it didn't make me feel like I needed it or something. I was throughout this whole process, my energy level's been good, and it really didn't. I really didn't get the hunger that I thought I was going to get, and so this worked great.
It's an incredible product, and we're going to get Scott and Peter from Go Cleanse back on fairly soon to discuss more for our listeners. If you don't know, if you're hearing this for the first time, Go Cleanse, gocleanse.com. It's an incredible product to detoxify your body, but the byproduct of it is you end up losing a lot of weight. So it's incredible. And AA, you're on day what?
Day three.
Day
Yeah,
three.
So originally, I wasn't going to do it. I had school. I had all these other things, medical considerations and everything. But I'm staying on top of that, and I'm monitoring that. And so far, just like what Sentinel said, as far as thinking you're going to be hungry or anything else, and it's even keeled. I've been pretty inactive because of the school that I've been doing, which is online and all that. But no, it's so far so good.
I can kind of see it in your jawline too.
Really?
You look slimmer in your face.
I appreciate it. It's been
So
it's only been
this
3
was
days,
3
but
days?
I definitely see
From
the
last
improvement
weekend.
already.
It's an incredible product. This is what I want to do real quick, though, guys, and then we'll move on from the Go Cleanse. Denison, Mississippi, if you're listening, I do not have your cell phone number. So, as promised, I'm sending you an 11-day Go Cleanse, Denison, Mississippi, but I need you to call if you're listening tonight. Otherwise, I'll find a different way to get in touch with you. But if you're listening tonight, go ahead and call the station, talk to Sentinel, and give him your cell phone number, because that way, when I send you the 11-day Go Cleanse, Patty will be your coach, and she has to be able to contact you to explain how to do this process. Okay? So make sure you call in. All right. A lot to talk about.
Definitely.
I don't know if you want to start it off.
I do. I want to say.
I'm definitely going to come back to something that I have to bring up.
Definitely segue into from what we were just talking about with Roger Stone, and as far as the new narrative and how they're going to continue to go after him, but also there's a significant amount of things that have gone on in the last week. One of which is what's interesting is President Trump and Pompeo dropped a nuclear bomb, you could say, on China with the executive order, cracking down on them for what they're doing in Hong Kong, for the genocide that they're committing against the Uyghurs. China is now officially, as far as I'm concerned, and let me know if you agree with this, the Nazi Germany of the 21st century. Because just the fact that they have 1 million slaves and they have concentration camps and they got this military expansionism going on, and that they're using their own people as incubators to infect the rest of the world, and never mind that they've murdered 120 million of their own people since the 1950s, right, when Mao came in there. So they are the Nazi Germany of the 21st century. That's as far as I'm concerned, because people are freak out about Nazis, but communists have killed 10 times as many people as Nazis. Nazis killed 22 million people. Communists have killed 200 million people. So why are we not more offended by, communist flags and all that? So this is what's very interesting. Trump really laid the smackdown on any companies in Hollywood and anyone else who even does business with China. And then you see England getting out of Huawei, which is very interesting because the Five Eyes, which is are the intelligence of the network between England, the United States, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia, right, sharing the intelligence. Well, under Project Folsom, which is Bob Hannikin, the head of the GCHQ, which is the NSA, the British version of the NSA, was spying on Trump for President Obama under Project Folsom. So anyway, so you have all this going on. So while they're spying on America and they're sharing this information, it's all on Huawei lines. So China got everything. And so now, of course, President Trump used the fact that England committed an act of war against the United States in order to rattle Theresa May's cage and then force them to actually honor their Brexit. Now that they've honored Brexit and they're not part of the European Union, England had a choice to make. Do they want to get with China or do they want to get with the United States? Because if we close down our bases and withdrew our support and took our nuclear weapons off their submarines back again and just left them hanging out to dry by themselves, they wouldn't like that too much. We have this so-called special relationship. So knowing that they messed up, now all of a sudden England says, hey, we're out of Huawei. Huawei's banned from our 5G network. So I could see where that's coming from. But this is what's interesting about China is the very next day after the smackdown went on China, as far as Hollywood or anyone else, directly or indirectly supporting China or Chinese communist government or any business over in China are going to really be severely punished. Here in the United States, 24 hours later, massive Twitter hack. So and so my whole point is, if they went after Roger Stone for the DNC hack, which was not a hack from Guccifer in Romania, whatever. Roger Stone mentioned that the download speeds, right, of course, backed up by Bill Binney and Thomas Drake and others, and Ray McGovern,
who's been on the show,
who we've had on the show, absolutely, have said that the download speeds at that time, right, were not fast enough through the internet. It was obviously a thumb device, and of course, common sense says, hey, what's the deal with Seth Rich, and of course, Debbie Wasserman Schultz and MS-13? It's another reason. President Trump just slammed MS-13. Of course, 16,000 deported, thousands arrested. Now they're being prosecuted as terrorists, and of course, I believe this was the enforcement arm for people like DWS. Can't prove that, but what's very interesting is correlation does not equal causation or the affiliation, but it is very interesting with the Awan brothers and that laptop and her threatening the police chief and all that. So my whole point is going back to China, right? 24 hours after China gets slammed by the Trump administration for what they're doing in Hong Kong and with the Uyghurs and with the Huawei network and other things, we have this massive Twitter hack. So some speculate, and I just want to see what you think. Could this be Patriots? Because what's very interesting is all the blue check accounts, right, got hacked and shut down. Twitter got shut out of their own account for 5 hours. And what's going to be very interesting is we're going to have an October surprise of we already have screenshots from supposedly from inside Twitter that hasn't been confirmed of how they're able to shadow ban people. Like they have a selection where they can ghost ban people and shadow ban, and you just call it censorship is what it is. So we have all that, but imagine if these people have been direct messaging each other, right? Because they got all of Obama's stuff, they got all of Elon Musk's stuff, they got all of Joe Biden and other people's actors. If they're going back and forth direct messaging each other, maybe if reporters are direct messaging like Antifa and other things, talking about how to frame their narrative and all that, and if all that gets dumped, it's going to be epic. It's going to be biblical. It's going to be revolutionary. But what's interesting is I think that they may fabricate something. If Roger Stone actually opines about this stuff, then they're going to try to connect him to that too, using the same method that they did with the WikiLeaks issue. So I would definitely say watch your back.
Okay.
So as far as China, or as far as what do you make of the Twitter hack? Is my question to you.
That was the question.
Yeah, that was the question. So
it got lost.
No, I'm with you on that. The point I was going to make, sound like a broken record, but the whole China thing, we played the clip numerous times. Jorge Soros, said in an interview in 2011 that China has to become part of the New World Order. China has not commensurate, right? They had to become part of the New World Order. And in 2011, what happened? China had a representative to the Bilderberg Group. And since then, this has all been crescendoed, right?
Yep.
So China is part of the New World Order, the whole globalist construct. And so it doesn't surprise me whatsoever. Let's go to the phones in Florida. Chad, welcome to Earth. How are you?
Hey, guys. Good to be on with you guys. I appreciate the message y'all are putting out there for everybody. Absolutely love the show.
Thanks, Chad.
I'm going to change I'm going to change the narrative for just a second. I want to make a point, and then I'm going to ask you guys for your opinion on this. George Floyd was a backfire. They wanted to use George Floyd to separate whites and blacks even longer. I mean, it was a terrible thing that happened. He was absolutely murdered. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It was meant to divide, but it united. It created the riots, created a hotbed for COVID to spread to African Americans and to a vulnerable population who's generally obese, because we know that COVID kills the obese people at a higher rate. But what I want to make a point of is, if you notice, the George Floyd situation has calmed down. So what are they doing to incite African Americans now in order to keep the riots going, to keep these areas of COVID, to drive the numbers up in the blue cities, talking about the big Democratic locations who are preaching about COVID? They're driving the numbers up by getting blacks to riot about defunding the police. So they changed the narrative to keep the black people stirred up from George Floyd, and they've turned it into defund the police. So they've been able to take the most vocal group of people in America, which is African Americans, and keep them vocal and keep them in the middle of riots, to keep them in the middle of protests, which is also a petri dish for COVID. What do you guys think of that? I mean, do you think it's by design?
Absolutely. Well, this is the deal. They have announced their capability, opportunity, and intent to drop pandemics on us. Right, that's called Event 201. You can look that up. You won't find it on YouTube, but you will find it on BitChute. The amazing Polly breaks down Event 201, and then she links to like the actual Event 201, whether that's the World Health Organization and the World Economic Forum, the CIA, and others. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and you name it, have laid the whole plan out for all of their media narrative and all that. And they had simulated media narratives and all that. That was called Event 201. And then, of course, if you look at to crash the economy, you remember what Bill Maher said? That the only thing that's going to get Trump out of office is if we crash the economy. And then
wait a minute, Double A.
Yeah.
I predicted that on your show.
Yeah. Yes. And so they have announced their capability, opportunity, intent to unleash plagues on us, to crash the economy. And oh, by the way, didn't the Bernie bros say if Bernie didn't get nominated, cities would be burning down, right? So they've announced their capability, opportunity, and intent to drop plagues, crash the economy, and to burn down America. And that's exactly what they're doing. So I'm just waiting for, I declare July 23rd is National Apologize to a Conspiracy Theorist Day, because everything we've been saying has been happening, has been correct. And so you were correct when you said that as well. But they have announced their capability, opportunity, intent. And in the military, we call that justification for the use of deadly force, by the way, when somebody announces their capability, opportunity, intent to destroy you. So it's going to be some very interesting times. But yes, I agree with what you said.
Hey, Doc, are you there?
Dr. Drake has left the studio. He wanted
has
to be
left
on,
the studio.
He wanted to be on
Gotcha.
with Roger Stone.
All right. Well, God bless you guys. Thank you for what you're doing, and I appreciate y'all spreading the word. And Dr. Truth, keep up the good work, buddy.
Hey, thank you so much, Chad. Thanks for listening to the show, and we always appreciate it when you call.
All right. Take care, man.
Thanks, Chad. Awesome. Great question. Great question.
I don't really feel like it's just the blacks now, though. I think they're just targeting the younger generation in all, because
yes,
when you look now, you have a mixture between whites, blacks, Hispanics. It's just the younger generation.
Now
it's the uneducated generation that just, oh, you kill black people. This is what the news says. The news says that you kill black people, so now we're on this side. You know, they don't want to go in and get all the information.
And of course, when you bring that to the larger picture, as Truth says all the time, you have globalism at the top, and of course, on top of them is Satan, because they're a bunch of satanic pedophiles that run this planet. So that's kind of a problem. And of course, they're freaking out right now because of the 177,000 sealed indictments, and the fact that Trump's slammed 52,000 people internationally through the Office of Foreign Assets Control, and the 10,000 pedophiles he's slammed here, and all the stuff that's coming out, especially being shared with the Q community about all that stuff coming out. So they're not happy about it. Hollywood's freaking out, and all these other people. So what's interesting is beneath that, of course, the tool is the Marxist revolution. And so shock troops, they've always used shock troops. Like you had the Bolsheviks in 1917, socialist teenage punks, shock troops to go out there and then to enforce their will.
Brown
of course,
shirts.
You had the brown shirts, right? Under Hitler, you had the black shirts under Mussolini. You had the black and tans is what England used to terrify Ireland back in 1915, right? And then, of course, you have the Red Guard with Mao Zedong in 1952. What's interesting is when I went to high school, back in the 80s or in the 90s, and 80s.
You were in high school in the 80s?
80s.
You look very good.
80s/90s, yeah. Thank you. I actually read in a book about Mao Zedong and the Red Guard, and it was incomprehensible to me at the time when I was a teenager looking at, and of course, this probably won't be in textbooks anymore. How could a bunch of teenage punks overrun China? Why didn't they just, smack their filthy heinies and tell them that, to get to work, right? So how could Mao overturn, the entire, government of China, probably 500 million people at the time, and with a bunch of teenage punks? Well, now we see how that's done. And also remember that Princip was the name of the guy who shot the Archduke Ferdinand in Austria, right? From Austria in Serbia, right? He was also a social justice warrior, Marxist college student or whatever. So so these socialist shock troops have always been at the forefront in order for them to ramrod their agenda.
Very well put. Very well put. Let's take a trip to Mississippi. Dennis, welcome to Earth. How are you?
Hey, guys. How y'all doing tonight?
Hey, Dennis.
Very good, Dennis. Did you hear Roger?
I caught part of it. I didn't say I caught the last part.
He was on fire, Dennis. Hey, I don't want to interrupt you.
I'm going to have to go back.
I got
I'm
you.
going to have to go back and listen to it. I'm just, it pissed me off when I realized that I'd missed him.
That's all right. You can listen back to it. You know how to do that. It's archived right away.
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
Hey,
Oh,
real quick, Dennis, I want you to say whatever you want to say before we hit this break. But Sentinel, keep Dennis. Don't hang up when we go to break, Dennis. Sentinel.
Okay.
Let Sentinel talk to Sentinel, and you need to give him your cell phone number, because when I send you that 11-day Go Cleanse, your coach is going to be Patty, and she needs to be able to communicate with you. Okay?
Yeah, that was the main reason I called. I heard you a little while ago say I needed to, so that was the main reason I called. But I tell you what, I thought I had some people around me that were awake on some things, but I tell you what, talking to them about what all's going on with these masks and stuff, I'm not so dang sure anymore.
Yeah.
Because they have got people totally conned with these masks more than I thought they did. They really do.
It's easy.
But,
it's easy to all of a sudden see how malleable people are sometimes, right?
Yeah, well, I never thought that people would give in as easily as they have, with this stuff. I never thought Americans would be this easily duped into this, but they sure have been.
They have been. Dennis, listen, man, we're going to hit this break. Stay there. Don't hang up, and let's talk to Sentinel off air and give him your contact information for me, okay?
Okay. All right.
All right, Dennis in Mississippi, thank you so much. Always love hearing you call in, my brother.
Nice. Yeah, outstanding point about the masks.
Oh, yeah.
And,
well, I have some written down, so when we come back from break.
Yeah, definitely like to talk about that.
We can talk about that a little bit more, a little discussion action. And I have to bring something up. I'm going to bring it up. I just have to. It might piss a lot of people off, but hey, I love pissing people off. That's part of the reason why I do this show. Somewhere in Jacksonville, Florida, deep inside our Black Sheep Studio, AA, people are listening to a radio show called what?
Most controversial planet in the solar system. This is Earth.
Don't believe everything that you hear. Look it up for yourself. Knowledge is power, and knowing leads to the truth. More from Earth in just a moment.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Time to howl at the wolves, Earth fans. Truth here with my executive producer, The Sentinel, for Earth Plus. Sentinel, let's talk about what Earth Plus members get.
First of all, Earth Plus members can see the show from multiple cameras live or anytime they want. Every show is immediately uploaded and archived. You also get my exclusive Sentinel News.
And weekly videos, man on the street, sit-down interviews that Double A and yours truly go out and film. And the Black Sheep Vault, one monthly show handpicked by me from years ago for $1.50 a week. That's $6 a month. You get a whole lot of content. Go to www.earthradionetwork.com. Become an Earth Plus member today.
Chuck Bergman, psychic medium, will amaze you.
Any reason for me to see in a Rubik's Cube?
Oh, it's possible. That would have to do with my brother.
Why would you choose that?
My brother does the Rubik's Cube, and he solved it a few times. He kind of had them around his house.
If you have ever wanted to communicate with a loved one who has passed on, call on North Florida's best medium, Chuck Bergman.
There must be a reason why your brother that passed keeps talking about a cyclone.
Oh, my God, I'm going to cry. My brother,
Yeah?
a cyclone, picked him up and threw him like 150 feet.
Are you serious?
And that's true. That was the reason for him dying so young, is
wow.
because of that cyclone.
Book your private reading by visiting chuckbergman.com or call 904-291-1196.
Hi, folks. Ronnie McMullen here talking about the gain you receive from Get the Tea. A lot of food out there is not really food, but more like filler. Almost all fillers are GMO nightmares. When foreign fillers filled with toxins enter our body, well, we don't run so well. We helps you fight toxins, fillers, bad air, and water. All you have to do is drink 2 8-ounce glasses of tea a day. Save money by getting healthy. Doctor visits are costly. Healthy exercise and TEA.com. Don't put it off. Call us. 928-308-0408. Again, 928-308-0408. And by the way, if you're going to call us, we say good call.
Now, back to Earth, the most controversial planet in the solar system. Here's Dr. Truth.
Double A, some things I want to bring up. All right. But we need to communicate back and forth with one another on upcoming guests.
Yes.
In August, I have a gentleman by the name of Jonathan Mark who's going to be coming on the show, but I have to discuss with you a date in August.
Okay.
Because I don't, sometimes I
Roger.
don't want to double book someone, okay?
Yes.
It's a very wealth of information. This Murph during the break brought up Bin Laden while we were talking. And all this. It's very interesting. In September, folks, if you're new to the show, every September we do 3 shows in a row on the inside job of 9/11. Every September, we've done that for the entire over 11 years existence of this show.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to bring on some heavy hitters, researchers, authors, investigative journalists this year for at least 2 of them. And hopefully Scotty Hare will be able to join us for some of our
nice
9/11 series, proving that the official story of 9/11 is vapid of any truth whatsoever. And if it's vapid of truth, then what's the alternative?
Yeah, well, the official story itself is a conspiracy theory. And what's interesting is a lot of times you don't need to get into so-called quote-unquote conspiracy theory. Never mind everything the conspiracy theorists have said are correct. Conspiracy, by the way, is a crime. It is not a theory. Interestingly enough, the
CIA.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm not interrupting you. I'm just saying. I love how the CIA, after JFK's public execution, the CIA is the one who coined.
Yes. You did ask me to expound on that last week, but we ran out of time. Back in 1967, the CIA was very frustrated. This is declassified, by the way. It's called CIA document 1035-96, I believe, 1035-96. And I'll get back to you if that's what it is. But that particular document, 1967, the CIA was very frustrated that 4 years later. Now remember, the CIA was only 16 years old as an organization when Kennedy was killed. And, of course, 2 weeks before Kennedy was killed, it was put on the front page of the New York Times by, I believe, an author named Arthur Crook that said, the next coup d'etat that will happen will not be a military coup in America. It will be an intelligence coup. 2 weeks later, Kennedy was killed. This was the front page of the New York Times talking about the next coup, and it was in reference to Vietnam as well. So what's very interesting is, of course, what is it? A National Security Action Memorandum number 263 that Kennedy signed said he want all troops out of Vietnam by 1965, in accordance with what Dwight D. Eisenhower said. There'd be no greater tragedy than for the U.S. to get involved in an all-out war. 1035-960, that's what it is. 1035-960 is a memo that was written to the CIA's, it was a psychological warfare program department. And in it, they lamented the fact that it's 4 years after the Kennedy assassination, and only 20% of the people actually believe the official story. That was a problem for them. And what's even creepier is how the CIA identified themselves with the Nazi Germany stormtroopers that burned the Reichstag in 1933 to escalate Hitler from Chancellor to Führer, because they were frustrated that unlike what happened with the Nazis taking over Germany, they don't believe us. And it's like, this is how very interesting and creepy that they've identified themselves with the Nazi stormtroopers that burned the Reichstag. But yeah, they lamented the fact that people didn't believe them. They had organized campaigns about how to use their assets in media and in government in order to label people as conspiracy theorists, and then have all these possible arguments to come back at them, which included Mark Lane, the lawyer who actually defended Oswald even after he died. So they had all this strategy in there. But again, the term conspiracy theorist comes from that document.
CIA.
Yeah.
And this is what's so funny.
Yeah.
Double A. This is what's so funny to me. It's people. Sentinel, you know our favorite morning radio show, right?
Sure.
The tall guy, okay?
Mm-hmm.
He lost his S this past week on the show. Because he just conspiracy theorists, this and that, called people who are conspiracy theorists sick in the mind, sick in the head, going as far that they should be arrested. It's incredible. But he doesn't know where conspiracy theorists came from. He doesn't know that he's been manipulated, brainwashed into calling someone a conspiracy theorist just because someone says something that he has never researched.
Well, what's very interesting is that in that very rant that you're talking about, he actually demonstrated the exact opposite, or he demonstrated his problem. And this is the deal. There have been 5 universities that got together around the United States, including, I believe, in Boise and one in Massachusetts, and they were going to investigate what's wrong with conspiracy theorists. This study's like 10 years old, by the way. What's wrong with conspiracy theorists, the 9/11 people or whoever? What's wrong, JFK, you name it. What's wrong with these conspiracy theorists? Let's study. They were interested and fascinated in the psychological phenomenon, what drives them and what's wrong with them, and they wanted to diagnose them with some type of mental disorder or whatever. And what happened was the study yielded the exact opposite results. They said, wait a minute, all these conspiracy theorists are people who make logical arguments, they have common sense, they understand the history, the content, the context of what went down, they make reasonable arguments, they cite documents and legislation and historical events, and they connect, and then they explain and they lay it out. But then the people who are against the conspiracy theorists, right, who go with the official story, what they found out is they become aggressive and they become violent, and they're the ones that want to lock people down, and they're the ones that want to lash out, and they're the ones that get physically aggressive. And so the studies that was between 5 major universities about what's wrong with conspiracy theorists yielded the exact opposite results of what they were expecting. They were expecting the conspiracy theorists to be the loonies and the people who went with the official story to be normal, and it turned out to be the exact opposite, particularly making note in the studies about how angry and aggressive they become when they're challenged, especially when they don't know anything. What do they resort to? Emotional arguments, anger and aggression, and then lashing out and then forcing people into compliance to their will, and then not even having the knowledge to back up anything that they say because it's been repeated from talking points. While at the same time, they'll even tell you that they don't believe everything the media says while repeating their talking points. And so again, the studies, that's the psychological studies that have been done, again, gave the opposite of what they were anticipating on finding.
It's for people like us, it can be extremely frustrating.
Yes.
Extremely frustrating, but also you get to watch people wake up.
Yeah.
You get to watch people, not that we need to be apologized to, but a lot of people have apologized to me over the years.
Right.
You know, after lashing out.
Yeah.
But Dennis in Mississippi, when he called in, he had brought up the masks. The mask wearing. This is not new either, because after the inside job at 9/11, what did the majority of the American people do? They believed what mainstream media and the Bush administration told them. That's the official story. That's the Bible. That's gospel right there.
That's
And
authoritative source.
And so what happens? They were taught to fear, right?
Yes.
They were taught to be very afraid.
After the worst was over, just like this, deaths are down 90%, but now we need to have maximum fear. So just like 9/11, right? The worst thing that could possibly happen did happen, and that's over. But now we need to be afraid. We should have been afraid before it happened. But anyway,
with the fear, what happens? It's problem, reaction, solution.
Yes.
As we talked about on the show many times, you create the problem. You get the reaction out of the populace that you want.
Yes.
And then you offer the solution.
Right.
We'll protect you.
Yes, which is always.
So here's the Patriot Act. We'll protect you.
Yeah.
Let's invade Afghanistan.
Yeah.
We'll protect you. Let's invade Iraq. We're going to protect you with the Patriot Act. We're going to protect you by telling you to take your shoes off and be radiated in airports.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to protect you. Give up your liberty for security.
It always amounts to that, right? Surrender your liberty.
So it's the same thing with the mask wearing now. It's social engineering.
Right. It's a sign of submission. What's interesting is most people probably don't know. There's a band called DC Talk, right? It's like Disciples of Christ Talk. It's been around for 30 years now, and of course Toby Mac he's done his own thing, and Michael Tate went on to do others. But there's a video called "Consume Me," and you can look it up on YouTube. And it was made in 1998, and you see all these people running around with these masks on. And it's like, what's going on? And it had to do with conformity, and it was a very dystopian video. And I'm like, the whole mask thing doesn't make any sense to me. But in the end of the video, somebody takes off their mask, right? And of course, they fall to the ground and they're gasping for air, and then they stand up like, yeah, I don't need the mask. I can breathe. And then everyone else looks at them like, what? You can take off your mask? And then they took off their mask too. And so at the time when that video was made, it made no sense to me. But now you look, it's extremely prophetic. But yeah, it's a tool for conformity. What's interesting is, of course, like you said, they use fear. Oh my goodness, 70,000 COVID cases in Florida in the last 2 weeks. Yes, but only 130 of them ended up in the ICU, right? And 45 deaths. As tragic and as horrible as that is, let's do the math, right? Because these people are allergic to math.
But also, let's do the math on. There's a lot of factors here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of factors, including the fact that everyone's had a coronavirus before.
Yeah.
Because everyone's had a cold or a flu.
That's what it is.
So you're going to test positive.
Yes.
For coronavirus.
Right, because that's exactly what they are. So never mind that this one was genetically modified to spread like wildfire, but not necessarily to kill any more people at all. And if we look at it, so if we take 175, right, which is 130 that went into ICU, right, which is terrible, and the 45 that died, which is extremely tragic, that's terrible. It's going to happen. But this is the deal. Divide that by 70,000 and you have 0.25%. So again, this thing is more than 99% recoverable to the 1.5% that even get diagnosed with the thing.
Let's even talk about this.
Yeah.
Let's talk about. I mean, we're staying on the same subject.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. Sorry, Sentinel. It's laughable to me. going back to what Dennis was saying, and during the break, what Adam Earth was saying, it's so laughable. Everyone, listen, so now every flu season you need to wear a mask. Yeah. Like, it never stops.
Right.
There's
I'm
always
not wearing a mask for the
always
next
a
30
cold
years.
out
It's
there.
not happening.
No, it's crazy.
They want
It's
to condition
absurd.
us.
There's always a virus
Yeah.
out there, whether it's man-made or natural.
Right.
Plain simple. Everyone can. There's plenty of ways to keep yourself healthy.
Yeah.
We've talked about it on the show many times.
Right.
But they're going to try and pump this out. This
Yep.
is all now political.
Yes.
They're gonna try and ride this out as long as they can, and if they can, I don't think it's going to work with the stupid vaccine. But that's the uninformed people. They desperately want a vaccine.
Right. And you know what's interesting is they're talking about mandating something that doesn't exist. That's ridiculous. Meanwhile, here are these people, right? And a lot of them are anti-God because they don't believe that he doesn't exist, right? But yet they hate him and they're angry at him, and it's like, how can you form a group against something that doesn't exist, right? But let's take something that we know doesn't exist and let's force it upon the rest of the world. So the hypocrisy is through the roof. You know, it's interesting. And so in addition to fear, they're also using fake news to prop up their narrative, right? For example, Kayleigh McEnany, right? She said in reference to a question,
You've lost your everlasting mind there, Double A. What a conspiracy theorist.
Real quick before we leave the subject, you mentioned the mark of the beast.
Yeah,
it's falling in line. I think what the mask is, how many people can we control to wear a mask to go into stores? How many stores can we get to say, hey, you can't come in here without a mask?
Right.
And then slowly transition to, okay, if you get the vaccine, we're going to put this chip in your arm, and the chip is going to prove that you have the vaccine.
Right.
So now you're no longer.
That's the biomarker that.
Yeah.
Piece of excrement Gates has been talking about.
To me, it's just a slow transition into that.
They're
They're not just going to come out and say, we're going to put these chips in your arm. We're going to see how far we can push them first. We're going to see how much they'll listen in the beginning.
Right. Never mind, Bill Gates is a eugenicist, and he was good friends with Epstein, by the way, too. So do we want who people perceive as a potential pedophile telling you that you can send your kids to school or that you can't, right? That you can, about doing what's in your best interest to school. So what you're saying there, and I'm going to segue into this, is that yes, they're using fake news, of course, to prop this up too, because as far as kids going back to school, never mind that all of the pediatricians that come on, even on CNN, right, and say no, it's time to get them back in school, and of course they freak out because it's not part of their narrative. Just like CNN freaked out when somebody called out Bill Gates, and he just flat out said he's a pedophile. I don't want him telling my kids what to do. I wouldn't let him babysit my kids. Never mind, he's a computer guy, right? And never mind that he's a proven eugenicist who pretends he doesn't know what the word is. So Kayleigh McEnany, she said the science shouldn't stand in our way concerning opening up the schools, right? They immediately took that and misconstrued it. See, they're against science. They're against science. And it's like, wait a minute.
But by the way, Kayleigh,
yeah,
I want to do her.
Well, she's amazing. Well, she's married, so she's.
That's my daughter's mom's name.
So you'll have to stick with Miley
that's not
Cyrus,
your daughter,
right?
dude.
So you'll have to stick with Miley Cyrus. But check this out.
Why do I have to stick with Miley?
Well, because she's not married, right? Or is she married?
like
I don't
Miley.
know. But anyway, so the
she's too cool for school though, dude.
Well, she is awesome. She is amazingly beautiful. She's smart. She's articulate. She drops the bomb.
She does a great job.
And she does an amazing job. And also, she's a lawyer too, so it's incredible. And I just love how quick she is and how she comes back. But what's interesting is, what's his name? Jim Acosta, of course, right?
Great guy.
Amongst others.
Love the hell out of him.
They're pushing the fact that she says the science shouldn't stand in the way of this.
He has the best mask in the business.
Oh yeah, woohoo! So when she said the science shouldn't stand in the way of this, they immediately took that out of context, right? And said, look, they're against science because we don't want the science to stand in the way of our agenda. But then she went on to say in the very next sentence, the science is very clear about this, right? And then she referenced the Journal of American Medicine, right? JAMA, right? Then in the next sentence, she said, the science is on our side, right? And then in the fourth sentence after that, she said, follow the science, right? But what did they do? They took the last three sentences of the science is very clear, the science is on our side, and follow the science, and they deleted that, and they said, look what she said. The science shouldn't stand in our way on this. She's anti-science. And then, of course, you get like Bill Nye the Science Guy. The dude is not, he's a comedian. He's not even a science guy. And he's not a very good comedian either. But so talking about science, it's like, get out of here. So not only will they prop it up with fear, but they're, of course, fake news. But again, if you have 70,000 new cases in Florida and only 130 people go to the ICU, they haven't died. Only 45 have died. Okay, that's a maximum of 0.25%. Again, 99.75% survivable to the 1.5 people that percent of the people that actually get diagnosed. But we're supposed to shut down the whole society for this. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's all about the fear and ratcheting that up. And of course, it's completely political because they do not want the Republican National Convention here in Jacksonville to be successful. They absolutely are actively working to destroy that while saying there's no voter fraud. No. We're bragging about sabotaging everything else.
You watch when that happens here. If George Soros and the rest of the globalists and their stupid little Antifa and stupid little Black Lives Matter groups. By the way, Black Lives Matter, the founders, openly call themselves Marxist. Okay? Openly call themselves Marxist.
Yeah.
Openly say they hate God.
Right.
Openly say, I could go on and on, but we're going to break. Basically, they're totally against everything that is America.
Right.
Plain and simple.
But yet they refuse to leave.
But when the convention happens, it's the perfect place because Sheriff Williams is not going to let them run ramshot in Jacksonville, Florida, by any means.
Yeah.
Probably the best sheriff we could possibly have, along with Rutherford, in this situation.
Absolutely.
Plain and simple. Short segment on the other side when we come back from this here coming break. Double A, Adam Earth, The Sentinel, and yours truly, folks. EarthRadioNetwork.com is the show's website. It is a Saturday night. This is the one and only Earth.
Hello, this is Ty Bollinger, author of the best-selling book, Cancer, Step Outside the Box. I want you to know some very important information. In 1985, President Ronald Reagan requested that Carnivora be sent directly to the White House at a time when only the president could obtain this world-class healer. Now, 27 years later, Carnivora capsules are used around the world to keep people healthy. Now you can protect yourself and your loved ones in this age of superbugs with 17 naturally occurring compounds that instinctively respond to abnormal cells only without harming a single normal cell. If you want to stay healthy, now's your chance to literally wake up your critical immune cells to attack harmful invaders that don't belong in your body. Call 1-866-VENUS-FLY or order from Carnivora.com. That's Carnivora.com. That's 1-866-836-8735, 1-866-VENUS-FLY, or visit Carnivora.com. Protect your immune system. It's the only one you've got.
AMCO Transmissions, the trusted experts in transmission repair for over 50 years, are also the right choice for all car repairs.
Yes, AMCO Transmissions, the name you know for fixing the most complicated part of your car, can take care of your brakes, tune-ups, belts and hoses, air conditioning, regular factory maintenance. They can fix anything.
Plus, at AMCO, if you think your car may need repairs, we'll perform a free multi-point inspection and let you make the decision. If another shop says you need a repair, stop. Then come to AMCO Transmissions and Total Car Care for a free second opinion.
Why pay someone when AMCO will check it for free?
Don't trust your car to just anyone. Get it done right at any of our local family-operated Jacksonville area locations, including Orange Park, St. Augustine, and St. Mary's, Georgia.
Additional diagnostic charges may apply. See Center for details.
Find the AMCO Center nearest you at AMCOJacksonville.com.
AA MCO.
If you need car or truck repairs but money's tight, get help at AMCO. No matter what your credit history, AMCO has finance plans to help almost everyone.
Are you tired of getting hit in the head or told to roll over because of your loud, annoying snoring? And you don't want to revert to a CPAP machine strapped to your face? Well, why not try a custom-made snore guard by Somnomed? Your risk for stroke and heart attack will be reduced by 30%. Hi, this is Dr. James McCall, and I wear a Somnomed snore guard, and I'm sleeping better than ever, and my wife couldn't be happier. Call me at 620-9225 and see if you're a candidate for a custom-made snore guard, which is covered by most health insurance plans. Give me a call at 620-9225.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
The most controversial planet in the solar system. You are listening to Earth.
Little Even Flow from Pearl Jam rejoined their Sentinel.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, before we go, I just want to mention something, kind of an inauspicious or auspicious occasion, you might say. Today is the 75th anniversary of the Trinity explosion in New Mexico, basically proving that the atomic bomb actually works. And 3 weeks later, roughly 200,000 Japanese civilians paid with their lives.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother thing that we can get into as to whether or not there's a huge controversy, and I tend to side with we didn't need the atom bomb to win the war because Japan had already surrendered in May, but the global elite had their weapon, and they had to see that through because Japan had already surrendered to us in May of 1945, 2 months before the bomb was exploded, but we said no, it must be unconditional because they said, hey, leave our emperor alone. And we surrender. He's sacred to us. But what's interesting is after the atom bombs were dropped, and like you said, 200,000 people ultimately died, 70,000 instantly in the first blast in Nagasaki or in Hiroshima, and in Hiroshima, and the second blast killed 40,000 people because it was 3 miles off target because it was cloudy that day. But they found it to be a more efficient weapon. Still, hundreds of thousands of people died from the two bombs, and those were the only two we had at the time. Of course, Eisenhower said if we do this, we've adopted the ethical standards of the barbarians. But we want us to touch their emperor because he was sacred to them. But then what did we do after they surrendered? We honored the original agreement of leave their emperor alone, which is why MacArthur was able to drive around in convertible Jeeps unmolested because the Japanese were content with the results as long as we didn't mess with their emperor. And so the answer is, of course, if you were in World War II and you were about to invade Japan and then the bombs were dropped, you think that's what did it. So I don't blame veterans who were out there, who were ready to, lay the smackdown on the Japanese for America and then thinking that the bombs did it because that's how it was set up for everybody to believe that. But so there's definitely arguments for and against whether or not the bomb should have even been dropped. But it is an interesting anniversary.
Yeah, well, it is, and Sentinel always reminds us of certain things that if it slips our mind. Yeah. Alex Newman.
Yes.
We need to get Alex back on.
Oh,
I was thinking about we haven't done a super roundtable in a long time.
Right.
I was thinking about Amy Welry-Jarzinski, Alex Newman, and I'm trying to find another person that I think would gel with him.
Okay.
I'll think about it. I think we should see if he's interested in doing a super roundtable.
He is. As a matter of fact, he passed through Jacksonville recently with his family, but I missed him, and so he said, "Man, I wish I would have thought of you." So he's definitely interested. I did talk to him recently, so thanks for putting him back on the radar.
And talking about
awesome.
Navy SEALs, Sean Ryan is coming back on the show fairly soon.
Nice.
Okay, so talking about Navy SEALs, also Matt Bracken. Is Matt Bracken still interested in coming in studio? Or?
Well, he'll be on the phone.
Okay.
But as far as coming in studio, not yet. But we got that, and we got Fred Brownbill coming up too, from Save America Foundation, and so that's going to be awesome. So we're going to have an amazing lineup for you, and as usual, another fantastic show. I'm Double A, the Amendment Avenger, and freedom is always your first best destiny.
Say goodnight, Adam Earth.
Good night.
Sentinel, great show.
Great show. Pleasure to have Roger on again.
Most certainly. Roger Stone, incredible show with Roger in the first hour. For our elusive engineer, the greatest webmaster in the world, Tony. The fabulous Bob Austin, folks, and of course Scott Hare. Until next time, let justice be done till the heavens fall on truth. This is Earth.
And God bless all of you on the good earth.